How you doing? Next video for the Camphor cup. Last video I think was doing the coating on it. I've done 2 coats on the outside and the inside edges. One of them was the rub-on, which is the first one I did, and the second one there was just some videos of the centrifugal one I did on the outside just to get a real good coating on it, and it's turned out absolutely stunning. The coating on this one I'm over the moon with, even down to the little hole that was through the middle here, the little join in the grain has filled up quite nicely. So I've done, like I say, 2 coats on outside, 2 coats on the inside edge, which does a self form on the bottom there, so when all this runs down it sort of forms on the very bottom, that's what I call the inside of these, is the bottom. And then I've done a pour into the bottom there of the resin, so I'll make up some resin and do a pour into the bottom, as you've seen on my other videos, and as you can see, it's turned out even just as nice. It's a stunning finish on this one. I'm very impressed with this one. So the next job is to do what I call the base, which is the base of the cup underneath here. So of course got to cut this part here off, the tannin as we call it. Still smells very much like camphor, so I was worried about this wood, whether or not the tannin or whatever's inside the wood to give the smell, the real strong smell, would affect how the resin goes on, or whether it's going to cause bubbling or anything like that. That's why I've only ever done, this is the first one. So this wood I've had, it'd have to be 4 or 5 months now sitting waiting. I'm guessing at that point. I have to look back at my photos and see if I can find a better timeline for it. But yeah, so the next stage is to cut this off, smooth off the bottom, and do a resin pour on the bottom here after I've done my sign writing, and let it sit again for the many days. As you can tell by the period of videos that this is coming up, I basically do a video as I'm doing it and then put the video straight up, so you get a bit of an idea on the timeline. As I say to people, it takes a little while to carve these out depending on the size and what I do or the features and stuff like that, but normally around about an hour I'm getting down to now to do the carving of the cup and the sanding of it. But then there's roughly between 10 and 14 days of doing the resins, and that's mainly due to the fact that you have to do all the different surfaces at different times. Yeah, so not too sure. I'll have to go look back at the days on how many days it's taken, because you do a coat, they say it's set in 3 days but not cured until 7 days, so I don't allow these to go and get used for at least 7 days of the cure from the inside, definitely. But normally I work it on the base here. Once it's 7 days after I've done the base in here, all this in here has been set for a long time, so probably 10 days or something like that by the time I get all through that, because I do what I do now, like this has been sitting there for a few days, just settling in there and setting away sort of thing. So I'll get onto that, stop dribbling, and I'll get this set up in the lathe and get the camera set up in a better position than standing out the front of the workshop squinting at the sun, because at the moment it's sunny but cloudy at the same time. So yes, we'll get into the bottom section, or the base section of doing this now. Back in a minute. Alright, so back in your normal position. Can't see me, but you can see what I'm doing. So I'll whack this back in the actual lathe. I was doing some bowls on here, so I had to adjust a few things. Bring that back around to the number 1 point where I had it before. Hopefully we'll end up, yeah, there's a bit of a wobble there, so a bit of a tune in. So we'll bring this back over, is all I use just to tune them in a little bit, make sure it doesn't hit. So that's your closest point. Give that a bit of a tap over. So all I'm looking at, I don't know, you can't see it from your side there, but there's a gap that forms in between the tool rest and the job. So I just bring it round to the thinnest point, which is about there. Bring that round to the opposite, and then tap it across just that little bit. So it's to there now. The idea is you're taking about half the distance away. Loosen that off that little bit, give it another grab, see if that gets it. There's still a wobble there. It's about there this time. Bring that in. That little bit. It's getting pretty damn close there. So bring to the closest point, because now I can't see the difference between the two. I can feel that it's about there. So I'll just drop that in a bit closer, so I don't scrape against the side of it as it comes around. I don't think I'm going to get much better than that. So we come in there, might give it a little tap just there. Yeah, tighten that up. Like that. Hopefully it doesn't move. Moved a tiny bit. Let's just see what it's like spinning up. Yeah. Won't even notice that. So all I'm going to do is going to go straight into here and taking the cup off basically. Don't need to do anything else except keep everything out of the way of the cup as much as possible, so it doesn't hit it. So I'll bring my light over to the other position so I can sit like that. I can see what's going on down there, and I wonder if I move you guys over so you can see what's going on. Hope that's a decent position for you. Like that. And hopefully the thing doesn't come flying off and hit the camera. That's my phone. So, using the parting tool. Now, some of the resin drops down over the edge, as I've probably mentioned in my other ones. So I just take through into here, and you can see the resin, or I can, building up on the tool. Beautiful soft wood. I'll just take this little ledge off inside there. Because I'm going in on a bit of an angle, tries to bind up a little bit. With the jarrow, this thing would be fighting me the whole way, all the way through here, but I'm hardly even doing any pressure at all. Just taking my time with it, just to make sure that I get a nice, reasonable finish on the bottom there. Step down. I'm riding the bevel of the tool on the top of the thing and just bringing it up until it starts to grab. Now, I don't know if my arm's going to get in the way here or not. I'll try and keep out of the way as much as possible. I'm just lightly putting my hand inside here, so when the cup does actually go, I can get it out of the way of the tool rest. So I'm operating the tool one-handed, which is not always the best thing to do, but cup's getting a wobble to it, so it's going to come off. There it goes, and off it comes. It's left a little tab on the bottom there, and that's what the sanding will be about. So we're going to give this a bit of a sand up and take all this nice and smooth. I'll put the tool away, put it back up there, so you're in a bit better position. So yeah, the next part is to give this a sand down, and I use a rotary tool. Not normally that bit, but I can give it a go with that bit there. I normally use the full round flat wheels. The one you probably seen me use before, so I normally use that one in the tool, going along like that. Now I'll go change the tool, and it doesn't take long. It's just a matter of undoing the chuck. Take that one there out, put that one back in there. Good thing about this one is it's been used a lot, it's worn down, it's still got some good grit underneath, but you have to give it a little bit of pressure to... Sorry, you couldn't see any of that. Yeah, so I just changed that bit over. So yeah, the good thing about this one is it's still got some good grit inside there, but a lot of the outside's worn down, so if it doesn't wear down very quickly, but it does do a nice smooth job. And a little bit of pressure on it, you can get into the sharper stuff. I haven't got the compressor on, so hopefully I'll have enough air in here. As you can see, that's already taken down, that part there. Getting some water coming out through there, that's not a good thing. And yes, I do drain my compressor, but my air lines go up and over and down, and sometimes in the bottom of the hose you get that little bit of water come through. As you can hear, I'm running out of air already. I hadn't even pumped the compressor up, so it's just whatever air I had left. So I'll just go through all that. I won't make you sit through all that. So I'll go through, give this a clean up. There's a few little, like there's a tiniest ridge there and a tiny ridge there. I try to come in as flat as I can at the bottom on this first ridge, and then go in on a bit of a taper, just so I can get a bit more resin in there, a bit more of a coating, and it will sit on this outer edge here quite nicely. If you do a dead flat base and then pour resin on, this will actually stick and tend to float around on the resin, because it doesn't do a flat, dead flat. It is flat, but it has a little bit of a convex sort of shape to it, and it will tend to stick or roll around depending on the surface it's sitting on. So I'll get the compressor going, I'll give this a good sand back, and I'll be back. Okay, so I dumped the water out of the hose and gave that a sand up. As you can see, a lot more smoother on the bottom there, sort of thing. Just give it a quick rub down with some of the very fine wet and dry that I've got sitting here. Just to give it a final little... I'm going with the grain with this one, always going with the grain on the bottom band and end grain. You want to sort of go across, you can see the lines with this one. It's quite obvious which way to go, which is quite good. and then give that a blow off. Like that. And now it's time to go through and do the writing on the bottom here, which you've seen me do before. I'll do the writing, the name, my name and the date, and after that it'll be the resin pour to go onto here. So mix up some resin, dump it on there and let it sit. The fun part. Cheers. Yeah, I might show you the rest of it, so we'll see how we go. I'll stop the video here, but might carry it on and add a bit more into it, so we'll see how we go. Alright, so next stage, as I mentioned before, put you there, is to do the writing on the bottom. So being camphor, this stuff burns very, very easily, so to do the writing on it is quite simple. The jarrah, you sit there for ages waiting for it to light up and then go, whereas with the camphor, once this is hot, you literally don't have to, you just write like normal, realistically. I'm trying to do it so that you guys can see as well, but I'm not even putting any pressure on that at all. So as you can see, it just straight on, no waiting for it to start to burn, or if you sit there for too long it'll actually burn a big hole through. So you actually got to move a little bit faster than what you do with the jarrah. And no, I don't have a special branding tool for doing all this, so every single one that I do is all written by hand like this. And then you mess up the spelling. I think it looked right, but hey, I'll just go over it. That's better. And then the year. And as you can see, that's the writing done. So the next stage from this is just to give that a quick wire wool over, just to take any of the edges of the burn. And next stage will be resin. Exciting stuff. Alright, so next stage, as I said, was going to be resin. So what I've done with this, because I don't want to lose or darken the wood with the resin, as I said last time when I've done this, I coated all this with the proof seal. So I'll do a little bit of a proof seal pour on there. Hopefully this will open the can up. There we go. Nice. Like that. Now, because it's coming from the can, if I just pour that straight onto there, I'll probably spill it everywhere. So what I might do is get one of these little measuring spoons, just grab bit of a swirl around. Just grab some out and pour it into there. This being end grain, it will soak all that up. Not a drama. Get it like I do with the resin. You don't want to go right to the edge because this doesn't have much surface tension like the resin does, and stay on the edge there. But I've already got a bit of a coat of resin all the way around where it's run down, so that'll help seal up anyway. And of course the proof tint would have run around, the proof seal would have run around down there when I was rubbing it on, doing the outer edges. So work its way out, make sure all the writing's all covered up so it doesn't discolour when we put the resin on. And that there, basically it for the sealer, because what this will do for the next 20 minutes, half an hour, that'll soak in and dry up, and it'll be ready for a resin. So as you can see, there's still a little bit floating around on there, but that will definitely soak up into the wood and give a nice good soak up in there, and a good seal. That's the word I'm looking for, not a good soak up, a good seal. So lid back on that, and the waiting game again. Just let it sit, and next stage will be resin. Once that's all cured and dry, ready to go, we'll be getting the old resin out again and doing a pour on there. Yeah. Alright, so we're back. This is completely dry on there now. Try not to touch it too much. Wood's a little bit porous sort of thing, so there's a few little bits there that are going to take a bit more resin to go in there. So we're up to the resin stage. It's been well over an hour, maybe hour and a half, possibly longer. I went up and made some sausage rolls, so if you're on my Facebook or anything like that, then you'll know that I've just done some sausage rolls. So that's what's happened in between waiting for that to dry. Exciting, eh? So now it is going to be coating this in the resin, and you can get rid of the proof seal. That can go up there. And as everybody knows that watches my channel, I use the Fleece Watson glass finish for this. So, and I haven't had a hell of a lot of luck with the 5 and 3 mix that I used to do for some reason. Doesn't seem to always set properly. The biggest problem is when it doesn't set in the bottom of there. This one has really well. It's not, this was the 10 and 6 mix that I do, so it's a 5 and 3 ratio, and don't know, you can't probably pick that up too well, but that's what these are, all these numbers at the back here. So 5, 3, 10 and 6, 15 and 9. This tells me the mils that we need to mix together. So this time round, same as the last one, I'm going to be doing a 10 and 6. This is a 5mm scoop or measuring spoon. So I just do 2 of these. This is getting very low. Bottle. So that's the one. And 2 of them, and just let that sit there and run into the cup for a little bit. And then the hardener, need around about 6. The worst thing you can do is go too much of this stuff, because it then floods the resin a bit too much and it doesn't actually set. It stays soft. You'd think you put more hardener in it will go harder. No, it has the opposite effect, because its ratios are all out and it can't harden itself. So if you have too much in there, it's trying to harden itself in there rather than harden up the resin. So that's the 5. And I just pour a little bit more in the bottom to make it up to the 6, and then just let that one sit there and drain in as well, just to make sure you get all the last little bits out of the measuring spoon. A fresh bit of towel. As soon as that comes out, I'll give that a wipe down. Otherwise that there will go hard in there as well and stuff up the measurements that we've got. So try and get everything out of there, give it a good clean without getting it all over your fingers. And there we go, clean. That goes on my little tray there. I'll keep that because we're going to need it. And now the exciting part is stirring this up. And as I said in the last video, minimum of 2 minutes of stirring. And now this is what I was describing in the last one. You can see it's not clear. It goes into like a haze, almost like a opal sort of look to it. And then the more you stir it and the more it mixes together, it actually clears back out again, and it will go, you can see it starting to go already. So as soon as you start to mix it, the two parts mix together and cause like a haze all the way through it, and then as you keep stirring it, it goes pure clear again. So giving it a good stir. We're on the base of the cup, so we'll be able to get a lot of the bubbles out. Now the only drama with making the mixes at 10 and 6 is I don't need all of that. As I said last time, I only use a little part each time, but it all adds up in the end. But yeah, when I'm actually making these, I don't use a lot of it at any one time. But if you think about it, I'm using roughly 8 mils on each one. So once you've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections of it, because you do the what we're doing at the moment actually gets done twice, and I dare say this one here will definitely need it twice, because that wood is going to soak this up like nobody's business. So the big mix, and if you happen to be watching the time, we're around about 1.5 minutes already. So you just got to keep getting all the edges, all the corners down in the bottom here. The good thing is this is one of my other, this is one of the cups I've used a couple of times. So in the actual very bottom here, that's actually solid resin all the way across the bottom, so I don't have to get down into that little groove anymore, which is great. It's nice and flat on the bottom, and you can just stir it up, giving it a twisty, making sure every part is mixed together. You don't want a little section that's not mixed and have a soft part in all the hard parts. So it's really crucial to make sure this is all mixed together. And then tap it as much as you can. And that helps the bubbles to rise to the top. And of course, got it on hand this time, blowtorch. Just get the oxygen out, help draw the other bubbles up. Out they go. There's still quite a few in there, but as I say, we're doing the base, and we can get the very thin coat on there and get the bubbles out anyway. So might move you guys into a different position so you can see a different view of this. So let's see if this will work or not. I don't know if it will. Yes. Down I go. That's better. Okay, so you're actually inside the resin booth now, looking the other way, seeing what I see. So still just giving it a gentle stir now that we've got most of the bubbles out of it. I have to say those sausage rolls were bloody lovely. I didn't eat them all, but we ate a few of them. So, one quick little more burn there just to get rid of any of the massive bubbles. Okay, and then it's a matter of pouring it on. Quite a lot for this one. Actually used probably half of that little cup there. So what was that? That's roughly 16 mils. So 8 mils again in this pour. And as you can see, it's starting to spread itself out. But you actually want to bring it right up to the edges like last time. And unlike the sealer, this stuff actually has a high surface tension. So it won't normally run over the edge. So all I do is just keep bringing it around, bringing the resin up to the edge, making sure every piece has a good coating over it. Now of course, as I said last time, this is probably really exciting content because it's the same stuff over and over and over again, but some people like to see different ways. But yeah, as I said, like I was saying, it will actually run all the way back into the middle, into this big pool here, and want to stay down there. So you've got to try and bring it up and get a decent coating all over the edge without it running down the side. Of course, if it runs down the side, get your alcohol and wipe it off. Just wiping it off doesn't work. Tell you the truth, I don't think I've ever had it actually run down the side doing this method. You just got to be careful when you bring it up and make sure you don't go silly at the edge there. As you can see, I don't go right up to the edge. There's a hair there. That looks like a... oh no, it's just a bit of resin fluff when we carved it off. I was going to say it looks like a S.D.P hair. So what I'm doing is I'm getting my eyes down so I can actually see the edge and see the wall of resin come up. Make sure you don't go over. Once this is all coated, and I'm going over the same spots again, but it's better to make sure that you've got every single one done and keep it drawing out. It's quite a thick coat, but as you can see when I first poured it, it won't want to stay all the way out the edge here. If you fill that all the way up so that it does fill to here, you're going to have the same problem that I was talking about before, where this is going to be a flat surface dead all the way across, and if you put it on to a smooth surface like this tile here and there happens to be any moisture around, it's just going to stick or it's going to slide. You may have experienced that when you put something down on a flat smooth surface and a bit of moisture, it just tends to glide off with the hydro foiling or whatever it's called. So I'll just keep bringing these up and then allow it to drop back into the middle, and that gives you that little bit of a scoop out so you don't get that suction or the floating happening underneath the cup. Coming around again for the third time. This resin will take a while to set, so as long as I know that's got a good coating on it all the way around, I'm happy, because the next coat, if it gets one, might be a bit thick to do another one. I've gone a bit thick on it, but yeah, will only be a very thin one, and try and run it as much out to the outer edge here, just to make sure that this bit that keeps running back into the middle does have a decent coat on it. Now, as you can tell from when I just do the wipe over coats on the side, it still stays coated anyway. It's only for the aesthetic side of things. This is basically sealed with the proof seal, and this coat of resin, this outer edge already had a coat of resin on it from when I did the side, and it ran down underneath, so I didn't take that right back to raw wood when I cut it off. So there's already a coat just past the lettering, so realistically this should be a one-time go, but we'll see. Things have changed before, so get the flame over the top just lightly. You're not doing it with the heat, as I said before, doing it with the lack of oxygen. Draw all the bubbles out, anything that's left in there. So I'll get down, I can't see anything protruding through the surface. So that goes up into the bake, as I call them, the dust proof area, to stop anything settling on it. And that there, in a few days time, if everything works out and that hardens up, will be the camphor cup all sealed up, and maybe this time I won't have the smell of the camphor coming through. So that'll be rather interesting if you have a coffee in there and you get this camphor smell coming through, because it'll give your coffee a bit of a Vicks sort of taste, I guess. So yeah, I've got about 8 mils of resin sitting there to find something to do with it. I don't know yet, but that's the basically probably the last coat on there. So the next video would be me showing off this, hopefully all finished and ready for use. Being that there was lots of bubbles, or not bubbles, but lots of dips and all that in that wood underneath there, I was expecting this to have a lot of bubbles coming up through, but that resin was actually at a really runny stage, and I think it's filled it very nicely. So I'll put that in the bake and we'll see how we go. Cheers.